You'd think the Meghan Markle saga couldn't possibly get any more scandalous, right? Oh, but think again, because this time, the whispers aren't coming from royal insiders or tabloid journalists. No, this one comes straight from behind prison walls. In a cold gray cell with flickering fluorescent lights, Ghislaine Maxwell, the infamous woman tied to Jeffrey Epstein's twisted empire, has allegedly decided to talk. For years, she was silent. The world thought she'd take every name, every secret to her grave. But out of nowhere, she started naming names again. And one of those names, shockingly, was Meghan Markle. At first, everyone brushed it off as nonsense. I mean, come on, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, the global activist, the mom, the feminist icon. What on earth could she have to do with Ghislaine Maxwell? But the whisper didn't die, because this time, Ghislaine wasn't hiding behind vague clues or coded statements. She reportedly had proof, something she called, get this, a CV. Now, when you or I hear CV, we think of acting gigs, charity work, a neat little list of achievements. But Maxwell's alleged CV wasn't that kind of document. According to those who claimed to have seen it, it was darker, much darker. It supposedly detailed private events, exclusive gatherings, and activities that most people wouldn't even whisper about in daylight. And the most haunting phrase from her supposed statement? She claimed Meghan had been playing the adult game. Just let that sink in for a second. It doesn't say anything outright, but it paints a picture your mind refuses to erase. What kind of game? Who was involved? And what kind of world was Meghan really part of before she became royalty? For someone whose image screams empowerment and control, this kind of rumor is explosive because it doesn't just dent her reputation, it completely shatters it. And here's where things take a sharp, dark twist. This isn't just a gossip column fantasy. Meghan's name reportedly surfaced in connection with actual court documents, legal filings tied to the same. Nightmare web that took down Prince Andrew. At the center of those documents, one familiar name, Virginia Giuffre, the woman who helped expose the Epstein network. According to her lawyer, Meghan Markle's name wasn't random. They allegedly knew each other, not through royal circles or charity galas, but from overlapping Hollywood social scenes long before Meghan wore a crown. And that's what made Meghan's name so valuable. Because if she had even been near those elite events, she could potentially confirm who was there, what went on, and who was involved behind those secretive doors. For investigators, that kind of insight would be gold. For Meghan, it's a ticking bomb. Here's what makes this even wilder. The lawyer didn't add Meghan's name just for drama. Court filings are strategic, precise. Every single word matters. So if a name goes in, it's because someone believes that the person knows something worth saying under oath, and that's where the fairy tale starts to crack. Before Meghan became the Duchess of Sussex, before the palaces, the titles, and the Netflix cameras, she was an actress in Hollywood. Ambitious, charming, smart, and very, very good at being in the right rooms at the right time. She mingled with producers, businessmen, billionaires, and socialites, the same elite who loved being seen with rising stars. Nothing strange about that, right? Except those very circles occasionally overlapped with Epstein's shadowy world, where power was traded for pleasure and silence was currency. Now imagine that old Hollywood world colliding with royalty. A duchess who preaches empowerment suddenly being linked, even indirectly, to one of the darkest scandals in modern history. That's Meghan's nightmare. Because once Ghislaine Maxwell said her name aloud, it stopped being a baseless rumor. It became a possibility. And in today's world, that's all it takes. The public doesn't need evidence to destroy someone, they just need a story that sounds like it could be true. From there, the whispers spread like wildfire. One court note reportedly described Meghan as a close companion. Two simple words, but oh, the damage they caused. Because close companion isn't legal fluff, it's a phrase that implies access, familiarity, and time spent behind closed doors. It means dinners, introductions, conversations, secrets. Not a handshake at a fundraiser, but proximity, real, personal proximity to people whose names are now synonymous with scandal. And suddenly, everyone started connecting dots. Before she was royalty, Meghan was climbing. She knew how to charm her way into the rooms that mattered. And back then, Prince Andrew still held a serious influence. He could open doors across London's glittering elite. So if Meghan had access to him, she had access to everyone. Now, in hindsight, that looks terrifyingly suspicious, a future duchess orbiting the same world that would later collapse under Epstein's empire. A woman building her ASEAN that duchess companies with mans. A as not meant her orders, image in the glow of privilege, while somewhere in the background, whispers of exploitation floated through the same rooms. Coincidence or connection? That's the question that keeps people hooked. And when that alleged CV is mentioned, the overlap doesn't feel accidental, it feels strategic, like a link that was never meant to see daylight. Because here's the truth, Meghan has always been meticulous about image, and the Finding Freedom scandal proved it. When that biography dropped, Meghan swore up and down that she had nothing to do with it. Her lawyers doubled down, she didn't. To brief the authors, she didn't share private details, but then came the leaked emails, hundreds of them showing Meghan had quietly fed the writers inside information. From private palace drama to emotional struggles with royal staff, it was all there. And the revelation was brutal. Meghan hadn't told the truth. She didn't just protect her image, she crafted it. That moment changed everything, because once you're caught lying about something small, people will forever question you about the big stuff. So when Maxwell's story hit the news, nobody asked, is it true? They asked, could she hide it? Because Meghan had already proven she could shape her narrative, and that more than any accusation is dangerous. When accusations this heavy hit the air, most public figures go into defense mode. They issue fiery denials, threaten lawsuits, unleash PR storms. But Meghan, she did none of that. There was no statement, no furious response, no courtroom showdown, just silence. Instead of confronting the headlines, she posted photos of flowers, launched a lifestyle brand, smiled for the cameras, and pretended like nothing had happened. But silence in the middle of a scandal doesn't sound like peace, it sounds like strategy. It makes people whisper, is she too afraid to answer or too confident to care? For months, Meghan's team let the rumors breathe. And every single day she stayed quiet, the narrative grew stronger roots. Because in the court of public opinion, silence isn't innocence, it's confirmation. Her fans claimed she was taking the high road. Her critics said she was calculating every move. But the truth? That silence became her loudest statement yet. And now, every time Maxwell's words resurface, every time a journalist mentions that hidden CV, Meghan's silence echoes louder than ever. It's no longer an escape, it's part of the story. Because every scandal has a breaking point. And in Meghan's case, that breaking point isn't a person, it's a file. That mysterious alleged CV? Imagine it for a second. One day, through a whistleblower, a court leak, or a forgotten email, that file surfaces. Even if it's exaggerated, even if only fragments are true, the damage would be instant. Because in today's world, perception moves faster than proof. The media wouldn't wait for validation. Headlines would explode. Talk shows would spin it for weeks. Late-night hosts would mock it. Every royal commentator would dissect every word. And Meghan, a woman who has spent years mastering her image, would suddenly lose control of it entirely. If she stays silent, people call it guilt. If she denies, they say it's spin. If she sues, the court demands discovery, real receipts, emails, messages, evidence. No move left on the chessboard feels safe anymore. And that's why insiders whisper that this isn't just rumor, it's checkmate waiting to happen. Because for Meghan, image has always been her currency. She sells poise, compassion, empowerment. But once a story like this gets into the bloodstream, every smile starts to look staged. Every speech sounds scripted. And the worst part, the human mind doesn't separate rumor from memory. Once you've heard something shocking, you see it everywhere, even when it isn't there. That's the real trap. Even if Meghan is completely innocent, the perception rewrites her story. Suddenly, every choice she's ever made gets re-examined. Her quick marriage to Harry, her Hollywood friendships, her habit of controlling the press. Everything starts to look less like romance and more like strategy. And that's the cruelest part of all. In today's world, belief lasts longer than proof. A single photo, one leaked document, a phrase like playing the adult game, that's all it takes to shadow someone forever. Because that's what modern punishment looks like. Not handcuffs, not trials, just belief. Right now, Meghan stands at a crossroads. On one side, the glittering empire she's built, brands, deals, podcasts, photo ops, curated perfection. On the other, the past she's tried so hard to bury whispers, rumors, questions that won't stay quiet. Her team keeps feeding the world. Curated calm, jars of jam, pastel-toned lifestyle shots, soft-spoken interviews about healing and mindfulness. But behind that glossy calm, there's a constant hum of risk. Because if that alleged file is real, if it ever sees daylight, she can't outrun it. She spent years mastering the art of turning setbacks into sympathy, scandal into strength. But not every story can be rebranded. You can't outmarket the shadow of Epstein's world. You can't edit yourself out of someone else's past. And that's the terrifying crossroad Meghan faces now. Does she confront the whispers or pretend they don't exist, hoping silence will protect her? Because silence might save her today, but tomorrow, it could destroy her completely. From the beginning, this was never just a royal feud. It's a collision between two women from opposite ends of power, one locked behind bars, the other locked behind fame. Ghislaine Maxwell stripped of status, speaking from a cell. Meghan Markle living behind digital gates, guarded by PR walls. One woman lost everything. The other built an empire out of image. And yet, now their names sit side by side in the same breath, and that alone blurs the line between guilt and rumor. Because when two worlds collide, the world of scandal and the world of spectacle, truth starts to melt into entertainment. And Meghan, the woman who once mastered the art of controlling her story, now finds herself part of someone else's. The alleged CV remains unseen, locked somewhere in whispers, fear, and speculation. But its idea alone has power. The power to make people question who Meghan truly was before the crown, before the fairy tale wedding, before the Netflix cameras and the carefully edited interviews. Who was she before the world called her Duchess? Maybe it's all lies. Maybe it's half-truths. Or maybe it's the one chapter she thought would never see daylight. Because that's how scandals work. They don't need evidence to ruin you. They just need persistence. And Ghislaine Maxwell's words, even from a cold, gray prison cell, refuse to die. So the real question isn't if Meghan's past will resurface, it's how much of it the world will get to see. And when that moment comes, when the light finally touches whatever's been hidden, her legacy won't just be tested, it'll be rewritten. Because truth has a funny way of crawling back to the surface. No matter how deep it's buried, no matter how many PR teams try to bury it again, when it finally breaks through, it doesn't just expose you, it defines you. And that's the terrifying thought haunting Meghan's empire right now. Not prison walls, not lawsuits, but exposure. The fear that the version of her the world loves, the poised Duchess, the humanitarian, the feminist icon, might one day crumble under the weight of what she tried to leave behind. Because in the end, every empire built on image stands on borrowed time. And Meghan Markle's time might just be running out.